Start. Call this meeting to order, even though I am not the chairperson anymore. I guess I'll chair it tonight.
You are the most recent chairperson.
Yeah, I guess.
We never voted on it.
I have
So if we
been-
don't vote,
I
you're
have have been the chairperson for a considerable amount of
maybe you'll get an award.
time. Won't be big enough. I have roll call.
John Fuller.
Karen Zuckerman.
Lou Pizza.
Liz Cyberling. Amy Gayfeller.
Okay. This is our agenda for tonight. Elect and approve as chairperson of the West Branch Preservation Commission. Move to action.
I'd like to be secretary.
Good.
Thank you.
We won't even have to vote on that.
I'll be vice chair if we're being casual.
Dana, you want to be chairperson?
Oh, do I?
You don't, but
I don't think I have the experience. for
They
it.
say
I probably,
What all does it entail, I guess?
you just run the meeting.
you just
Yeah.
run the meetings and help with the agenda. And
It's the next step below becoming the mayor.
Oh, okay, good.
Is that a distinction, Roger?
Right, yeah. So before I agree, you're not retiring anytime soon, are you?
Well, I nominate Dana Gayfeller for president.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Hi.
This is a ramrod crew.
it's all women too.
Well, we want to give the
Unless
women
John wants
equal
to be the
access
vice.
and elect and approve a vice chairperson.
Liz,
I'd like to nominate Liz Cyberling.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like to nominate Karen Sukamil for the
Secretary.
secretary.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See how simple that was?
Yeah, thanks.
Now we're down to 6 already. Discuss for the follow-up action on Townsend's Travelers Rest status.
Perhaps we can have a report.
Correct. So I will update you on progress of that. The next two items are more or less discussion, where are we at, where do we want to go? And to just get this whole board to meet, because I know it's been some time. I know the owner of Travelers Rest did try to get their site on the network or the Freedom Network. Press release I saw, I did not see it listed. So my guess is it did not. I talked with the owner about that. There's two things I do want to discuss is National Registry and then how to preserve the home temporarily until, say, a hypothetical situation where it's possible the Park Service could potentially take it over. The first step would be the property owner has agreed and signed that it is okay for the city to establish a preservation district, much like we do downtown for that individual home. Pros and cons to that, just for you guys as information. There's a misconception that if you're on the National Registry, your property is protected. That is not true unless you're getting money from the federal government. So that is the purpose of local government passing an ordinance. That way there would be some protection. The homeowner's fear is she does not necessarily have an heir to take that property, and her worry is that family member could just pass it off to the first one that bids and sells it. And so there's been comments from other neighbors about demolishing the house. There's been interested groups that have wanted to move that property offsite into a more central region outside of West Branch, and the current owner wants to keep it in West Branch due to the historical significance of the town. Second option would be okay, but I think that is the property's owner's preference to keep that property.
And what I've been told, that house was further up that hill.
Right.
And it was moved down the hill. So there's really no underground place there. If they kept slaves there on the underground.
Right,
railroad.
but John Brown stayed there.
He stayed there in that house
Yeah,
too?
he stayed in that house.
Okay.
And then the cave is up on the hill where that person lives now. That house that they're still working on, the underground cave is up there
Which house is that?
where Tim Crew lives.
Oh, okay. It's part of their property or?
Yes, that's where the house was.
Okay, that far up?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure exactly where it was.
East of his house or west of his house?
I'm not sure where it is on his property.
So is it a real cave or a dugout type thing?
I think it's a small cave that 4 or 5 people could have stayed in.
So would that ideally be part of this preservation district as well?
I was thinking that too, we would need to approach.
But he's outside city limits, right?
He has to return it to that location.
But what if it's right where his house is now?
Yeah, I know.
I think we probably, before we pass any type of ordinance, we want to entertain a discussion with Tim Crew, so. I don't know how we do that with it being outside of limits, but
And how does the Park Service feel about that? They don't want it, I take it.
no, I think Pete Swisher, the way he's explained it to me, and feel free to chime in. He's not unopposed to it, as it really wouldn't add too much maintenance time to them. Now, it does need to basically be an act of Congress. It does need to be on the National Registry, so it's not gonna happen overnight. He thinks there's potential partnership with the Hoover Foundation if, there's a capital improvement that's needed there. But I wouldn't say it's no, it's just take 5 years until they can, if we were to start today, it'd probably be 5 years by the time.
I think Pete envisions it as part of a broader historic picture of West Branch and desirable in that respect.
Fortunately, a lot of those homes have been torn down, like the Maxon home.
Yeah, but it's just like trees 25 years ago was better, but better do things right now.
So we just put it on hold and discuss it.
Correct. So that's a good point. We can at least talk with Tim Crew. And the next step would be entertaining a draft ordinance here at this level first before sending it up to council. But ordinance take 3 readings at the council level. But my guess is we just start, we've got that property owner's permission, so I don't foresee it being anything controversial. It's not like we're adding somebody else into it, so at this point in time.
Do they have any earlier pictures of it or anything? Because I'm sure it's been altered quite a bit.
It has, obviously with the carport in front of it.
John Brown didn't have a car.
Might have
My
turned out
understanding,
differently.
she has papers upon papers on papers. I think they're mostly in a safety deposit box. If I recall my conversations with her 5-6 years ago, pretty sure she keeps them in a fireproof safe at a bank.
So
So
what are these papers? They support this and how is-
pictures, stories from, I guess, the people that would have been living there. I haven't seen all that information. I don't know if you have it all.
No, I haven't.
My understanding, it's a lot of stories passed down from family members.
What about getting on historic registry?
I think the first thing there is an historic survey. And that is a bit of a cost. Has to be done before you proceed any further.
Maybe pursue that, maybe herself.
Pardon me?
I wonder if the owner herself could pursue that. Someone else.
No, she certainly have to give permission for it.
I guess, I don't know if she is of means to do that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same.
So what expense would, how much would the expense be? Roughest.
10,000? 15,000? Somewhere in that vicinity, I think. There are firms that do this sort of thing.
What is it entail exactly?
Delving into those historic records, determining what portion of the structure is still in historic condition. I've never done one, so I can't really tell you. But
Is that what Jesse emailed us about that grant? Would that help with something like that?
Depends
I was
on which
thinking so.
grant you're referring to. I know there was one about putting a historic landmark marker there.
I think that's what that was.
Well, there's a new foundation grant that's now available. And that was thought to be possible to be put towards that.
I will.
Talk with
circle
Jesse.
back with Jesse,
I thought she was gonna come tonight.
She was unable to.
can circle back with that. Just thinking else in my head. It's possible next year, we opted for like a program with our regional planning organization out of Dubuque, ECIA. So it's possible there's some partnership with them on getting a grant that would help provide additional cost to pay for a firm. So maybe we get some sort of matching grant to help pay for some of that, offset some of it.
First, I think you'd want to go to the State Historic Society and get a list of potential vendors. And
Okay.
then ask them for
Yep.
quotes on what it would take.
Okay.
Then you'll have some reasonable idea of what's necessary.
They might know source of grant.
Sure, if they can do that.
Consultants may package it in. To your point.
Is Paula still the person to contact?
Can't
Probably
remember their
good.
name.
Paula's retired?
I don't know.
Wasn't the main contact, so
Okay.
I didn't check to see if she still worked at the office or not, but the two people I tried to get in touch with and have had light correspondence with. All the time. I didn't know, Liz, if you could back that up, if that's what the essential cost would be. Have some sort of. Maybe your firm does or doesn't do it, but. In terms of national registry. Applications.
I'm not sure if we do, but we have two guys that are like heavy into historic preservation.
Okay.
And I don't know if they go that far, but they've done assessments, but
Okay.
I'm not sure that
Okay.
is the same with what we did here. Might just not know.
I suppose I'm still thinking of Paula, but a firm that is on their sort of approved list, I'm sure would have a much easier time with this.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any feedback?
I'm just very pleased that
Yeah.
that there's interest. And I think that could be a key goal for us as a commission to try and pursue and support in this next 6 months or so.
I know there's,
Yeah, that sounds good.
isn't there a trail now that has something to do with the Underground Railroad? Not in this part of the country so much, but I think out east.
And so I have this Freedom Trail that has been mentioned.
Correct.
Yeah.
There is, and that was something we tried to get on. I don't know if that first attempt was successful or not.
Cedar County was certainly very instrumental on the Underground Railroad. Did anybody see that exhibit the Park Service had maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago? It was in their main office there, with that, the Park Service building. It was really interesting. It was dealt with a lot of the people who helped on the Underground Railroad. And it was pretty detailed in describing that. And they had pictures of some of the people. And one little old lady just said, "Take me to jail, take me to jail," but they never did. Okay, discussion or follow-up
I
action.
think Dana ought to be doing this now.
Oh, it's effective now?
Yes, right away.
Go for it.
Okay, the next item then is a discussion for follow-up action on the certified local government status.
Aren't we almost there, John?
Well, actually, one element of what we were supposed to do is being done right now, because we have a city employee taking notes. And one of the reasons that we were not granted CLG status earlier was that we really didn't have any support from the city for CLG status. And some part of that support was to have a staff person attend our meetings, take notes. And not only that, but it was, I don't know if I should say simply desirable or essential that we have some degree of staff support from the city government. So I have to say that this has been a very long time, because we requested CLG status in 2017. And so it's been 5 years now since that request was made, almost 5 years. And we really didn't proceed as a commission anymore to try and obtain CLG status. I have something I made up about a year ago on what was happening with CLG status. Copies to pass around to everybody.
I can make copies.
Madam Chairperson. It's really been that long.
It has.
Yeah.
When did you meet last? You remember?
We were on Zoom.
It's been at least
We were on, no,
We
we've been on
did Zoom
Zoom
meetings.
Oh,
Yeah, we had
last year.
two, I think.
Yeah. 2 Zoom meetings.
Then we cover something. or-
Some signs downtown.
That's right.
Yeah. We did the town hall door and
And then we did
maybe that was our
massage
last live one.
therapy.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I've got that. Thank you.
So with this list is the various things that we submitted when we requested CLG. And we had a historic preservation plan that was done at the end of 1997, and which undoubtedly needs to be updated. And then we got a response from the Historic Preservation Society that we submitted the standards for restoration and rehabilitation that were not exactly the same as those that apparently were required by the Secretary of the Interior's process. And it did not include two standards about archaeology and about treatments that do no harm. And so essentially we need to replace that verbatim. And that we had dealt with properties 100 years old and older, but not properties that were 50 years old and older. And frankly, I didn't think that was necessary, but nonetheless,
Are those
didn't really have the
supporting,
resources to go and find out everything 50 years to 100.
are those the supporting buildings? Or not necessarily?
Everything in the town that's 50 years older.
By National Registry standards, when a property hits 50 years or a site, there is the potential of it being on the National Historic Registry. I'm just thinking in my head on the staff perspective. That's a lot. That's where my biggest hang up is with staff time. The other stuff, I think,
Now that's point
me and
E
Nick
here.
can kind of work out between us, but that one is like tedious.
Is it possible to get that exported from the GIS?
Correct, and that's how I did it. But they also want to report on what type of architectural style that home is, and it's not a,
I've got your spreadsheet.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So could a volunteer do it?
yeah,
You have trouble getting volunteers for your
Yes.
No,
museum.
Me,
yes.
You-
could I do it?
I would suppose so.
Thanks.
That's a,
Just move on. let
that's
it-
a 6 month.
Let's not talk her out of it.
She is very tired.
I'm retired. I worked on this stuff before. I want to get it done.
Oh, yeah, yeah, oh my gosh.
That's lovely.
If I could.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow. Are you sure you shouldn't be chairperson?
I just like to do stuff like this.
She likes to take notes.
Yeah.
Well, but really the other part is item E. And at the time, it certainly did not seem like we could proceed with getting more city support. Signing a staff member 10, 20 hours a week. All that sort of thing. Now, maybe that's changed. I don't know. But seemed troublesome.
We could put Karen on non-paying staff.
Yeah,
I was gonna make a comment. Lane Shields and his family was here maybe 3 weeks ago. Some neighbor that lived across from them when they lived here in town died and they came back to the funeral.
Lane was a member of the commission, a
Yeah.
very hardworking.
And they still live in Little Rock. He was and did some work on the town hall
Mhm.
in preparation for putting that on the register. I don't know if he has that, probably still does. Because he went so far that he knew about the fire that was there sometime in the 50s, I think. And some other things about it. So that could be helpful if the city's interested in putting the town hall on the registry. If we get this certified registered government status, doesn't it?
It frees up monetary sources. They aren't necessarily very extensive, but it does give access to them
Does that,
in the state.
does it have anything to do with help from the state or anybody that would get more assistance or?
Adam, have you ever looked at the budget that they have?
CLG,
You know,
not necessarily their budget per se, but there are certain grants that you can't apply for unless you have a CLG status. And it's like all grants, you gotta identify what the costs are and depending on how much partnerships there are. It'll be fully funded or partially funded, so. But, yeah, I mean, it gives us access to more grants, like, oh, they're still competitive, but right now we can't even apply for those or be in that.
And I think there's another level above CLG, isn't there? Something to do with,
Possibly, I
That-
don't recall.
I think it dealt with things like cities. Oh, like.
Well, they're all-
Activities and like farmers markets and things like that.
Yeah, but I don't think that requires CLG status. There are various and sundry other state grants. It's
It's not another level, it's just part of the whole program.
separate from the historic programs. But anyway, that's where we are. Things need to be done. And it's always troubled me that either this commission or anyone else has picked up on any of the goals in that historic preservation plan and pursued them. Did a plan, had a lot of elements of it, trying to establish goals and ways that you could achieve those goals. Nothing really has happened. So that's 5 years of nothing happening. So it's a challenge. It really is. And a need, I mean, wonderful to hear that you work on identifying those structures 50 years older and older. That would fulfill part of the CLG requirements. There needs really to be a fairly large body of people willing to try and achieve these goals.
That's our
And
problem.
the end result would be marvelous. I mean, having a town hall that is in good shape and is more of a centerpiece, right in the center of town, and having Travelers Rest that can get restored, having people who are more interested in this historic town, making sure that it remains in reasonable shape. I mean, all that's very desirable. But somehow we've got to stimulate people to realize it.
And I want to bring up that it's real important that anybody who's renting a building or buying a building in the district needs to know that there are regulations, and especially applying for signage and things like that. Because in the past, we've had a lot of, they go and get a sign design, they put it up, and then they want us to approve it. And that's kind of counterproductive. But I know there's some new businesses coming.
I think we have Nick here. We will remind Jesse. I will note that because that's probably gonna be the first one that's gonna have contact with those businesses.
So speaking of Jessie and everything that she does for the Main Street program, is there any resources we could pull from her to help? Because it feels like that would be a benefit to their group as well in getting this done.
That would be me.
Okay,
Yeah, historic preservation falls under the design committee,
okay,
which is the
okay.
Part of the application, Nick and I will start meeting every 2 weeks to kind of go over where we're at on that status. And we'll start including Karen too when we get there, but I think first Nick and I need to go through everything with the plan, but yes, that would be one.
And then there's a pretty good pool of volunteers there that could maybe,
They also have within their resources to look at other small communities that have Main Street accreditation, because one of the accreditation points is working with a certified local government.
okay,
So other Main Street communities should be working with CLG status, how they do that. Staff person funding or our stuff should be. Okay.
We have been reminded along the way that we're dragging our feet on this. That a lot of Main Street programs have already had CLG.
But I think there's room for collaboration, and I think some of the things Jesse's been doing with some of the downtown renovation grants, I know there's more stuff we'll be talking about, and another thing that emphasizes in this budget council pass, starting this fiscal year in July, at the end of each year, 25% of hotel motel will go into a reserve account to renovate Heritage Square Park. So to say that'll happen tomorrow, no, but hopefully in the next several years, we can have some mutual benefit between this board and CDQ.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up tonight. Heritage Square, it's coming.
It's been abused a lot,
It's hard.
been abused a lot,
I know.
like when they put that snowman up there and screwed it on and nailed,
Pillars, the posts.
yeah.
I didn't know.
And there's gotta be some other way that you can get in there to that. I don't think we discovered. I remember at one time, they opened it up. They took the piece inside. They moved it down to the town hall when it was down there by the fire station. And the firemen helped with that project. I don't know if,
Clean it up, you mean?
well, they helped move it and that, and then somebody cleaned the glass and stuff, and then they put it back in there. I don't know if Kevin,
I
no,
know you're attached to that, Lou. I think there's maybe a time when that may not be desirable,
what?
the centerpiece under the gazebo. It may have run its course. That's what I'm getting at.
And what? A grant money, I think it was $24,000.
Is that 30 years ago? Or more?
I don't know if it was 30 years, but we had narrowed it down to 3 proposals for a grant. And we rotated around town to the banks and other city offices and that. And it was the community people that voted on it. It wasn't the council or anybody else.
That's fine.
And I just think that that needs to be restored in the form that it was in the first place. Like, what would you put under there? A fountain. Doesn't have anything to do with the gazebo.
Sure,
There was a
the
pump
The
underneath it.
gazebo was a water.
Yeah, but it wasn't a fountain, it was a pump. It was where they watered horses and that.
I'm not proposing a pump. Well, the reason I say fountain is, and I've chatted with you about it. Water attracts people. We would love to attract people from the Park Service, from the National Park downtown. People hear water and see water, they like. We're drawn to it like flies in a way. The landscaping is enhanced and all that.
Well, the city voted against that type of thing. We wanted to put
We
shrubbery.
can do something better. You're right. We'll come up with something even
I
better.
still got the
Glad we didn't do
posters, so I can show you guys, just to kind of show you up. It was 2006 when some of that stuff, but I've got.
I wouldn't mind closing the street,
Same.
closing the street
How far would that be?
from,
Like just a little short section of the
yeah.
street?
Make it completely pedestrian, because it. Back up.
Well, being an
Pergola.
artist
Yeah.
myself,
Shade,
I think that sounds.
Me-
shade, landscaping, and a water.
the point I have is being an artist myself. If I was the one that had my artwork submitted and done like that, I'd want it to be preserved, and that's what the city has not done. Bill Wagner has that whole, I don't know, that panorama when you go into the auditorium there. That's his work too.
I wonder if that will get preserved when the museum gets remodeled.
I don't know.
If some things run their course. I don't know if that was the plan. Yeah, this is the plan. We tentatively approved years ago. But a brick wall,
Yeah, we would have a raised.
short brick wall, which I agree with, that should happen.
And we were gonna have lettering on it too.
Yeah.
And from there,
That's a proposal, of that firm that came in.
Oh, that's.
Yeah,
why
that was,
closing off the street. Yeah.
Southgate Development.
Yeah.
When they were gonna buy the Hoover House.
Mhm.
I like that. This is nice.
Mhm.
Trees.
That's, what's the building next to that?
Well, that's my building, but
Business center.
those aren't my windows. That's Izzy's treasures.
For the purposes of today, Lou, is the, I guess the current underneath the gazebo, is that like locked? Like if we were to call a locksmith? It's been open, is that what you're referring to?
I'm not sure, but I know they got it open.
I've looked at it. There's a way to change the light bulbs. I did that this summer. I
that was-
looked at it.
It was more than that. They
Yeah,
took
I
the
think you gotta
panels
take it
up,
apart
probably,
Somehow, take it apart, take a piece of glass out.
probably. Can you ask Kevin maybe and see if he knows? Stillman, because he was part of that group, I think.
I can ask them, it is, we're running in the, once it stops raining, we're running in the peak pothole filling time, but when things get a little bit smoother in the summer, we can have Public Works look into it as well.
I've looked at it. I haven't figured it out. Other than take the glass out.
Well, I'm opposed to changing what's underneath it.
I know
It
you.
was voted. If somebody wanted to, if I had a painting and somebody said, oh, I'll paint this out and put something else in, I'd be highly disturbed. But you don't look at it that way. This was the
Maybe it
artist,
could go somewhere else.
what?
Maybe it could go somewhere else. What's there now could go somewhere else. And refresh what's under there now. I'm not saying throw it in the dumpster. Just saying.
Put it in the middle of the intersection.
A lot of. I just
We're
find
missing
it,
an opportunity.
I just find it hard. Like if you were going to say, it doesn't have the importance, but if you were gonna go to Washington and start changing the Washington Monument or the Jefferson Memorial or something from what it was intended to be,
Different comparison.
but Bill Wagner was a well-known artist. Lives in Cedar Rapids. Roger, you don't know anything about art. I know that.
A little bit. I like Picasso.
Well, in Washington, there are a fair number of statues that have been recently
Removed.
removed, and put in some other place, probably in storage maybe. But, you know, upgrading Heritage Square now at least has a source of funds that will be coming forward. So there'd be a fair amount of time to decide how to use those funds as they accumulate and to make some changes that clearly would be desirable to pull people in from the museum and the park and so forth. And that's part of economic development. It's part of refreshing things. That's part of having a better downtown atmosphere. Not to say there's anything wrong with the art. Maybe it could be repurposed somewhere, but we got time to work on that.
It's pretty low on the council's budget right now, so it's gonna be a while.
Has been for a long time.
Take some. The first start is money,
And I don't know how structurally sound it is.
so. Once we have a small pocket of money, we can start applying for matching grants, but.
Okay, should we move on to, I guess, was that comments from commission members? Or does anybody have
Yeah.
anything else?
Does anybody have anything else?
I sort of wonder if there's anything that we should be planning on doing for the next, say, 6 months or so. I mean, that your offer is a wonderful one, and that would get us a bit further towards CLG status. Others can pull in to work with you on that. And you need to know how we document each of the structures.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a lovely opportunity. But is there anything else we should be doing as a commission? You know, lots of things that have been talked about at various times. You could refresh your memory of the various goals and action steps in that earlier plan.
Maybe you better get us a copy of it.
It's online in the city
Okay.
webpage, but I do have a copy with me. I've got a whole box full of stuff with me. Find out where it is, but nonetheless, it is, as I say, online. And I'll grab the copy out of here when we finish up. If anyone wants to take a look at it, feel free.
Is there anything else that we could be doing with the CLG in the meantime, besides the figuring out what needs surveyed? Is there anything you need help with on that, like rewriting any of it or anything like that?
No, we do need to take a look at that ordinance, see that it's as up to date as possible. The other thing is to set some meeting dates for us. I was supposed to have that. Training for the commission members is seen as very desirable. And so getting a hold of information about what training opportunities exist, just like Adam did for P and Z, there are those training opportunities for Historic Preservation Commission members. And making sure that we all sign up for something or another, so we're a more capable commission. I think those are items that would be good now.
I think in June or July is usually the historic preservation summit, so I will
Is that in Iowa?
double check. It was in Fort Dodge when I went 5 years ago.
And last year, wasn't it on Zoom? Maybe they'll do some
Probably.
more stuff on Zoom this year. 'Cause that would be easier than driving somewhere.
Like when I went.
Yeah,
Mother and
I think
Pat.
so.
I guess I went to Sioux City.
Yeah.
And then we went to,
So as far as the
Cedar
student
Falls.
houses, are there actually like online
that was
training
just to
classes and
view
stuff
the
that-
city.
Oh, okay.
They were.
Probably, I'd have to look more into it. The one I suggested is more or less a workshop
yeah.
with your other peers or other, larger cities have like full-time staff members that are historic preservation.
I can look
or
into the training too and see.
consultants are there. So,
see what I can find.
but I think I'm hesitant to say next month that's meet with my expected third child to be coming soon.
You haven't
My
had that
guess-
child yet?
No.
She's been there 3 times. They send her home.
I was just gonna ask you, if you had a boy or a girl?
They know it's a girl.
Okay. Reluctant baby, huh?
So maybe at least no later than quarterly, so no later than after the 4th sometime when, I don't know, where people's vacations are. They're in mid to late July, but maybe that's something we shoot for.
Dana, you're the one that'll set that date. See,
Okay.
usually,
In there, yeah.
Usually
in their
we-
meetings.
usually we have an email
Yeah.
and check with people if they have the date.
Okay.
And
So
some-
what do we?
somewhere we come to a consensus.
Yeah, so if we look at July, would that be the next? Or would you want to do August?
Uh,
Maybe June.
yeah, I would think
Yeah,
June
June,
would be
okay.
better.
It'll give us 2 in the first half anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's less probably vacationing and things.
Sure, yeah,
No major holidays.
Anything else from anybody? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
Only